Hi there. Have you been confused by all the information that is available about nutrition? Have you ever thought to yourself, I want to be healthy, but I don't know how in this crazy world? If so, you're in the right place to learn everything you need to know about how you can be your healthiest self by improving your digestion. We'll learn how to make the easiest and healthiest sourdough bread to the truth about yeast and sugar. Join me each week and we'll talk about everything from junk food to your protein needs. We will even dive into some unspoken topics like, what is my bowel movement trying to tell me? Or how can my emotions possibly affect my digestion? For more information on how to be your healthiest self, visit us on healthyselfwithfood.com, where we provide resources including recipes, cooking classes, and coaching appointments. I believe to completely take care of your whole self, that it includes what you put on your body. So I'm very happy to introduce you to our amazing sponsor, Gervine Family Farms, where you can find the best smelling soaps and healing body products on the market. Gervine Family Farms is the home of all natural, real soap and body products that truly heal your skin. Do you regret washing your hands because after you do, your skin is dry and irritated? If so, try the healthiest soap on earth. It is made from coconut oil, essential oil for the smell, and herbs or spices for the soap color. All the ingredients are so healthy for your skin that you could eat them, but please don't eat the soap. It doesn't taste good. There are no fillers, synthetic dyes, fragrances, or low-quality oils. Real soap doesn't strip your skin of all your body's natural oils, thus requiring you to use lotion so that your skin doesn't completely dry out. Save money on lotion by using real soap, and you will never be able to go back to your fake beauty bars that you call soap. Find us at GervineFamilyFarms.com. That is GURVINE FamilyFarms.com. My name is Kaisa. I've always been intrigued about being my healthiest self, even from a very young age. I have been continually studying and testing out all sorts of health options throughout my life. I'm thrilled to be a certified health, life, spiritual, and soul purpose coach, and for the last 10 years, I have enjoyed working as a nutritional counselor in a naturopathic doctor's office. As a nutritional counselor, I guide patients through protocols for their particular health ailment prescribed by their doctor. I also have almost 30 years of experience in making healing food for my 6 children, husband, and friends. This doesn't mean that my food always turned out or tasted good, but they sure were good sports as I learned many tricks and tips that I now can share with you in your food journey. I recently discovered Ayurveda, and I am currently studying to become a digestive specialist. Ayurveda is the knowledge of life. The basic principle of Ayurveda is to prevent and treat illness by maintaining balance in the body. Let's dive into today's topic. Hi, I'm so glad that you've chosen to join me today, where we will learn how to kick sugar to the curb. This is episode number 1 of the How Can I Be Healthy podcast series. The first question I have for you is, do you know what sugar really is? And do you know what sugar does to your body? Or are you in denial and find yourself not wanting to look at sugar and what it really is because you have a committed relationship with its addicting taste? Sugar is one of the most addicting substances and the most accessible drug on the market. This may sound harsh to call sugar a drug, but it can be classified as one because of the toxins and havoc it causes on your body. You know, it's not your fault if you're addicted to sugar, it's sugar's fault. But today we're going to talk about what you can do to kick the habit. Someone once told me that sugar is one molecule away from cocaine. Now, I don't know the molecular structure and its similarity to cocaine, but I do know that sugar is addictive. So why should sugar be classified as a drug? Well, any substance that we use for pleasure can be an addiction. This includes sugar. Our brains are hardwired for pleasure, and sugar works much like many addictive drugs in that it affects the brain's limbic system, the part of the brain that's associated with emotional control. The study demonstrates that the effects of sugar addiction, withdrawal, and relapse are similar to those of drugs of abuse. So, consuming sugar activates the dopamine system, which is in the brain's reward system. And dopamine, I'm sure we've all heard of it, is the feel-good chemical messenger. It's then released and reinforces our desire for sugar, our desire to want more and more and more sugar. Have you ever wondered if a person can overdose on sugar? Well, whether you are struggling with an addiction to sugar or simply having too much of the sweet stuff, it is possible to experience sugar poisoning. Sugar addiction can lead to serious health problems and, in some cases, even death. So, how much sugar do Americans consume per day? The average American consumes between 30 and 60 teaspoons of sugar, which is equivalent to a fourth to a half a pound of sugar. So if you can imagine a bag of sugar, typically the white sugar you'd buy at the store comes in a 5-pound bag. If you were to take out a pound of it, which is 16 ounces, if you were to consume a fourth of that to a half of that per day, you could have a visual on how much sugar that is. It's quite a bit. So let's take this up a notch and let me tell you about how much sugar Americans consume per year. The United States Department of Agriculture reports that the average American consumes between 150 to 170 pounds of refined sugars in 1 year. But you may be thinking to yourself, I do not consume that much, and that may be true. So consider, for every American who only eats 5 pounds of sugar each year, there is someone who eats about 295 pounds a year. That is a lot of sugar. So, especially when you compare it to how much we consume in the past. So, let me put some things into perspective for you. During the early 1800s, the average intake of sugar was only about 4 to 6 pounds per person per year. So, not the 150, the 170, or the 295 pounds. It was a lot less. With each passing decade, there has been a steady increase in sugar consumption among the United States population. Are you having a difficult time understanding how much sugar 150 to 170 pounds is? Well, here's a visual. Imagine 30 to 34 5-pound bags of sugar lined up next to each other on a counter. Now imagine one person, and perhaps it's yourself, eating all of that sugar in a 1-year period. Kind of brings it into perspective, doesn't it? I know this may be hard to swallow, and maybe you're not convinced that one person can easily consume this amount of sugar. But think again. It is not that difficult to achieve, unfortunately. Here's some numbers and some ways to show you how this can happen. There are 120 teaspoons in 1 pound of sugar. This means that a fourth a pound of sugar is equivalent to 30 teaspoons, and a half a pound of sugar is equivalent to 60 teaspoons. On average, a 12-ounce can of soda contains about 8 teaspoons of simple sugar. It only takes 4 12-ounce cans of soda to equal a fourth a pound of sugar. For some people, drinking this amount of soda in a 1-day period is not a difficult task to accomplish, and for many, it's a daily habit. So this is calculating only the amount of sugar found in soda. Just think about the other sources of sugar in our diets. Americans consume refined sugars in numerous forms. There are the obvious sugary culprits, such as cake, candy, cookies, donuts, ice cream, milkshakes. However, there's also sugar that's hidden in so much of what we consume every day. There are sweeteners like high fructose corn syrup, which can be found in many condiments, things like barbecue sauces, breads, canned foods, cookies, crackers, frozen dinners, hot dogs, ketchup, marinades, peanut butter, pickles, salad dressing, soup, and vegetables, and several other food products. Sugar is all around us. I have some more bad news. Sugar is not only classified as a drug, but it is a poison too. So some classify refined sugar as a poison because it is depleted of its life forces, proteins, minerals, and vitamins. And too much sugar is harmful to the body and promotes inflammation and disease. Now, we've all heard or we all know that consuming too much sugar in our diets can be dangerous somehow. But how? Let's talk about what it actually does. Did you know it can lead to organ malfunction and hormone disruption? And when these systems are disrupted and unbalanced, there's several other pathological conditions that manifest, such as allergies, arthritis, behavioral problems, cancer and tumors, degenerative organ diseases, depression, diabetes, immune disruption, migraines, mental illness, obesity, and tooth decay. And the biggest one is the fact that it brings down your immune system. So if you're sick several times throughout the year, you may want to look at your sugar consumption because excess sugar consumption depresses your body's immunity terribly. In fact, consuming these sugars are known to create 40 to 50% drop in the ability of the white blood cells to kill bacteria and germs within the body. So the immune suppressing effect of sugar starts less than 30 minutes after ingestion and may last for up to 5 hours. So by consuming 150 to 170 pounds of simple sugars each year, a person may have up to 80,000 hours of immune suppression. That's a long time that your immune system's not working for you. And I don't know about you, but to me, this all makes sugar sound not so sweet after all, especially because our immune system is so powerful when it is fed the correct food and able to operate at its optimal levels. And when it's not, it can't do its job. And that is why you see sickness, or that is why the immune suppression time is a time that's so easy for someone to get sick. Someone that eats sugar and someone that doesn't can be in the same room, be exposed to the same germs, but they both won't necessarily catch that germ or that virus. Why is that? And it's very well possible that it's because of things like this. Now, we can't see inside of our body, we can't tell what's happening, but if we know and understand the principles behind what food does and doesn't do for us, you can imagine when we consume too much sugar in a meal or a sitting or a time frame like a day, that those are those times that we are now immune suppressed. Our immune system cannot function at its highest ability because we have not given it the tools, the fuel it needs to operate properly. So we have complete control in providing our body the best fuel possible by not putting poison or toxins in it with too much sugar in our diet. To keep all this in perspective, it's helpful to remember that the American Heart Association's recommendations for sugar intake are the following. Men should consume no more than 9 teaspoons of added sugar per day. And for women, the number is even lower. It's 6 teaspoons per day. And so remember that one 12-ounce can of soda contains 8 teaspoons, which means that for a man or a woman, that is pretty much their whole day's allotment in one slurp, or even a little bit over for that matter. So hopefully that puts it in perspective of how much. Now, this could be a little bit depressing when you look at it this way, especially if you're someone that really, has enjoyed soda, has gotten addicted to it, or it's something that you consume on a regular basis. So we're going to talk a little bit more about more of the nitty gritty on how this can be done and why, so that you can make a decision on what's best for you in your life. So, as a recap, I wanted to bring up the Ayurveda perspective on refined sugar. Some of these things we already have talked about, but as a reminder, refined sugar consumption has increased exponentially. The average American consumes over 150 times the amount of sugar that was eaten just 100 years ago. Refined sugar is highly processed, and like a drug, it wreaks havoc with our metabolism, causing a sugar high and then a crash. It also confuses our taste buds. Refined sugar quickly ferments in the digestive tract and the blood, leading to outbreaks of candida and inflammation. You can experience this fermentation as a foul taste on the tongue within 10 minutes of eating refined sugar. It also leaves a trail of mucus in the digestive tract, creating sluggishness, and it really just should be avoided. So we've talked a lot about the amount of sugar that people are eating, and I wonder if some of you are thinking, well, why is this important? Why are we talking about how much sugar people are eating? And the main thing is that our body is hardwired to process and break down food in a certain manner. And part of that is also in the amount of sugar that our body can process. And so, knowing that a long time ago people ate a less amount of sugar and that part of their body was able to function properly really makes a lot of sense why nowadays we have so many different health problems that seem to be prevalent with our society kind of as a norm, and we could easily point our finger at the sugar consumption. That's the main factor that we can look at and say that has changed so much that clearly that has to be a factor in why there are so many health issues with just the general population. So if we can just remember that our body can only process a certain amount of sugar, that is a good reminder as to why we end up with these problems. If sugar automatically causes inflammation when we eat it, it makes sense that it's going to break down some of our organs and disrupt how our body digests food properly. So now we're at the point where we're going to ask ourselves, well, what now? What do I do now that I know some of this information? Now that you understand how sugar can destroy and affect your body and how much we tend to eat, you need to decide if you want to make a change in your eating habits. Do you already feel amazing in your health? Are you balanced in your sleep? Are your hormones balanced? Are your emotions balanced? If you are not suffering from any health ailments, then you don't need to make any changes. But if you are searching for a way to look and feel amazing, then sugar is the first thing to take a look at, to really take a better look at. It will make the biggest difference in your life. I want to tell you two stories. The first one is I know someone that's very close to me that was very addicted to sugar, enjoyed certain foods like ice cream and sweet drinks and like Gatorades and things like that. And I wouldn't say is someone that consumed a lot of it, but if it was around, definitely didn't want to say no to it and would consume it. And there was a lot of different health problems with this person that suffered with allergies and acid reflux and some other things that I won't go into detail, but later learned that they were all tied to this sugar consumption. This person went ahead and cut out sugar out of their diet. Initially, it was just going to be for 30 days just to give it a try. But then after doing it, felt the changes in their body with the inflammation going down, joints not hurting, knees and hands, and the swelling and the pain that would come from the water retention and the swelling from inflammation. This person felt so good that they decided to stay with this way of eating, and now 10 years later still enjoys the benefits from these changes and sees the value in staying with this type of diet or way of eating. So my second story, or an example of a preventative type medicine, is about myself. And the example that I wanted to share that I think is really important is that a lot of women, well, all women at some point, go through a change in their life with perimenopause and then eventually menopause. And with this generally comes a lot of symptoms that people talk about as being normal and things that tend to happen. And because we know that sugar affects hormones and affects emotions and affects weight gain and all these different things, something interesting about my life has been that I have not been a person that has consumed a lot of sugar over my lifetime. And there's been a couple of different reasons why this is the case, which maybe we can talk about on another podcast. But the important part is that I chose to eat this way mostly because I felt better. I learned a lot about myself and how my body operates and why that was the case specifically in my digestive tract. But what I know now is that because I had eaten this way and taking care of myself in this particular way, now that I am going through those phases in life, I can say that I don't have those particular symptoms that tend to be normal with perimenopause. Things like weight gain, the hormone imbalances, the moodiness or the changes in emotions, and hot flashes. I've not had any of those types of symptoms, and I attribute that to the low sugar levels in my body, and I'm grateful for that. And so oftentimes a lot of things we talk about are things that are going to happen later to us, and it's hard for people sometimes to put together those pieces of, well, is this important for me to do something about it now? So I wanted to share this example of a positive result from how low amounts of sugar can really benefit you, but it is something you have to be patient about and see the results later. So, on that positive note, we will jump into some steps or ideas or things that you can do if you do want to kick the sugar habit and feel amazing. First of all, no one is saying that taking this step in life is easy, cutting out sugar, but it can do wonders for you and change your life in a way you didn't even know was possible. So, the first thing I want to do is challenge you to try out these possibilities and just give yourself a set of amount time, like a week, 30 days, to try it out so you can see how you feel and if it's worth sticking with it. I have set up a detox protocol for removing sugar from your diet, and I have it all set up on my website. That is healthyselfwithfood.com. And if you go there, you can click on the pop-up that comes up and it will tell you that by putting in your email address, you can get a copy of this detox protocol for removing sugar. And there's also a second one for removing junk food from your diet. And so you can either get a copy of this ahead of time and have it as we're going through these steps so that you can kind of review back and forth with it, or it's something you can get after you've listened to this podcast. But that way you'll have the same things that we're talking about written down step by step on what you can do if this is something that you want to change in your life. The complete detox protocol has 9 steps. So the first one is to think about, why do you want to quit eating sugar? So the easiest way to do this is to have a journal or some sort of paper or notebook or something that you can write things down along your journey. And this number 1 would be writing down 3 reasons why you want to quit eating sugar. So hopefully after you've been listening to this podcast and learning more about what sugar is and what it does to your body, hopefully you've come up with at least 3 reasons why you would want to quit eating sugar. So start by writing those down, and then you can think about things about your body, like our goal is to love our body, and it is best to quit eating sugar cold turkey or completely all at once, because any amount of sugar causes insulin in the bloodstream, and that insulin in the bloodstream drives your blood sugar down, which makes you want to eat more. And so that's why it's very addictive. So that is step number 1. Some examples of reasons why you might want to quit sugar could be things like you'd like to feel better. This could include that your stomach hurts when you eat sugar, or you just don't feel well after you eat sugar. It could be that you want to look better. You'd like to have brighter skin, have a better complexion, or just feel more vibrant looking. That can include losing weight. That usually falls under feeling better and looking better. You could just want an overall of being healthier. Maybe you could be more specific about that in your journal, and it could be something like having more energy. So these are just examples of some of the reasons why you might want to quit eating sugar. Step number 2 is identifying where you're getting sugar in your day. So often we don't even realize how much sugar we are currently eating or where we're getting it in our diet, unless it's super obvious, like ice cream, cookies, and things that you know as you grab have sugar in them. But you may not really realize how much that's adding up. So we can start learning how to read labels and list how much sugar you're eating. We could recognize all the different names for added sugar. And on my website, there's also a listing of multiple different names that they have for sugar on labels so that you can see that almost anything that's processed or packaged that has a label will tell you the sweetener that's been put into it. The ones that you want to cut out will be the ones that are in the processed and packaged foods and junk foods, and the ones that are cane sugar or um, like pharmaceutical type chemically based sugars. Um, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that as well. So in step 2, you can use your journal for this as well and be listing, maybe take a day or so and just write down the things that you do eat that do have sugar in them so that you can just see where you're getting sugar. And then it helps you in knowing kind of where you need to make changes in your diet. By aiming to cut sugar out of our diet, it doesn't mean that we're saying we're never going to have anything sweet again. Things like honey and maple syrup are a form of sweetener that is not in the same category as sugar. It is in some ways, if you're talking someone that's diabetic and they're looking at that it's raising their blood sugar. But in this case of overloading our body, our system with refined processed sugar, which is typically the white sugar, but there's a lot of other names for it on processed labels, things like honey and maple syrup that are natural, a natural sweetener, we typically don't see those on the labels of processed foods. And so that's why that's kind of one of the first things that you end up cutting out or changing how much of that you consume. But it doesn't mean you can't have sweet treats or a homemade dessert that you make or something that you know that you can add a different sweetener because you're making it at home. And so that's kind of another conversation as well that we can have on recipes and things that you can make so that you can still have something sweet. Of course, there's also things like fruit, where you can be eating fruit and it's sweet and satisfying, but it's not added sugar. So that's really what we're talking about here is identifying the added sugar that's in our diet and really aiming to change that or cut it out or minimize it. A good rule of thumb is if you are eating something that's packaged, and typically this would be something like if somebody wanted like a protein bar or an energy bar or some sort of something that they're on the go, they're on the run. If we look at labels and we learn how to recognize that if it has 5 grams of sugar or less, it's in a really good place because it's not overloading us with too many um, grams of sugar per serving. So that's kind of a good rule of thumb. So step number 3 is going to be announcing you are quitting sugar to your loved ones. And sometimes people ask, well, why do we need to do this? And the reasoning is that they could be there to help make you accountable. They can be there to support you. Um, the ones that care about you are going to be the most interested in doing this. So you definitely don't want to be telling people that aren't going to be supportive or helping you be accountable because we don't want someone to be sabotaging you. So you can call and tell loved ones, or you can announce on Facebook or social media, and hopefully they will check on you and see how you're doing. And this can be a great support to you. And often people will be interested and very excited for you or asking you how you're doing. And it might even inspire them to do the same thing too. In step 4, we want to learn how to change our self talk to be positive. It's important for us to be positive of ourself and of our strengths. And we can do this by saying things like, I can do this, or I'm strong enough, I'm important enough, or I deserve this. And our body definitely does deserve to feel amazing and not be poisoned from too much sugar. But often we are the ones that will use negative thoughts towards ourselves, like we're not good enough, or, I can't do it like they do it. Look at how good they are. We don't necessarily say these things out loud, but we're kind of thinking them and we're kind of not building ourselves up in a way that really makes it possible for us to be successful. We all have certain strengths. And even if this isn't one of them previously, it could be one of our strengths now, which is doing something that's really hard, succeeding in doing it, having good desires, wanting to feel better. There's a lot of things that we can look at in a very positive light of wanting to do this type of thing for our body and making a big change. Step number 5 can be a lot of fun. It is imagining yourself succeeding. And often we don't take the time to really think about, well, what would it look like for me to be successful? What does it look like for me to be sugar free? What does it look like to be strong, healthy, and pain free from not eating sugar? We have to think about some things like, where will you be tempted? And if you can imagine yourself succeeding in those moments of being tempted to eat the sugar, what does it look like? Is it a party? Is it a gathering? Is it with family, with friends? And also, how can you behave differently? So imagine what that would look like in those situations in doing something different. Maybe you're choosing something totally different, like bringing your own snacks or treats when you go out so that there isn't that temptation. And that's definitely a new way of being, but once you get in the habit of it, it'll just be who you are. And then you'll be prepared when you're in those situations. There's a good book that you can read about Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself by Dr. Joe Dispenza. And so it talks about habits. And there's actually one or two other books that I've also read on habits. And so it's neat to learn those kinds of tips to understand that we do get into habits, but then we can also create a new, really amazing habit too. Step number 6 is to find someone close to you to be your accountability coach. Now, we talked about this one a little bit in the beginning when we made the announcement to people that we love about our exciting new journey that we're going to be taking and hoping that they would keep us accountable or be supportive. But in this case, you want to find someone close to you who won't let you get away with cheating or falling off the wagon. And you can choose to enlist them to help you by being your accountability coach that you can check in with every day. They need to be encouraging and support you in whatever your goal is. Not everybody needs this, but if this is something that you need, this is a very helpful step and tip to have, because then you don't have the excuse of not having someone that checked in on you. I know often this would work for people that were like trying to start an exercise program, and like, if I just have a friend to go walking with, or the person that's going to go to the gym with me, then I'll do it. Or if I have a class that I'm signed up for, then I'll be accountable to showing up. So that is a typical habit or way of being that we have, that if we know that about ourselves, then by golly, let's do what we can do to make ourselves successful in that area. Step number 7 is to make adjustments to family meals without affecting everyone else. And we wanted to mention this one because often people will say, well, I, eat my meals at home and there's other people involved, and so I can't make changes. And so what if there was a way that you can either make adjustments to the family meals that doesn't affect everyone else, or you're able to speak with those in your family, and if there's shared meals that will affect you, see if they are willing to make these adjustments, or if they want to do it alongside of you. And so often little things can be tweaked in the meals that would make it possible for you to still eat what everyone else is eating, maybe by having some of the things served on the side that have sugar in them, separate from being all added in to the meal, whatever it may be. Maybe if it's sauces or um, something that has a lot of added sugar in it, and you want to go another route. Sometimes there's meals that you can kind of provide in a salad bar style, which just means that it's kind of put it together for each person in their own way, which means that you can easily avoid some of those things that you may not want to be eating, but it can still be a tasty meal. And then there's the possibility that maybe your family or those that are involved with where and when you're eating are willing to go through the same journey with you. But if they're not, this step is there for you to realize that you can make adjustments to meals, even shared meals, in a way that doesn't necessarily affect everyone else, so that you can be successful. So, step number 8 is replacing the sugary treats that you would usually eat with something different. So earlier when we talked about it's okay that we still have things that are sweet, but we're going to want to make sure that we're replacing them with things that are not sugar based. The first way to do this is to make a list of maybe the things that you used to eat and a list of some new possibilities. And that way you can start to see, like, there are other things that I can eat, and mentally kind of put that together with, oh, I could have grapes. Those are sweet. Or, man, I sure love an apple. That could be, a sweet treat. Um, but our taste buds will change, and they'll come back alive over time after we have cut out sugar because of what sugar actually does to our taste buds. And this will make things that have always tasted sweet and delicious, but that we didn't realize before, it'll make them come back alive. It'll make them more enjoyable. And I've heard people even say, like, gosh, carrots are even sweet now. And the carrots were always sweet, but our taste buds were kind of paralyzed or sleeping because they were just overstimulated with chemically based processed sugar. So eating high quality fats can also help curb your sugar cravings, as they're very satisfying. So sometimes when we're craving certain things, it, we are misled by what we think that our body's craving. So eating, something like some sort of nut butter. It could be peanut, but there's a lot of other nut or seed butters that you could eat with an apple. That would make it so you have the sweet taste from the apple, but then you also have the salty and the high quality fat from the nut butter. And that's a great way to have a very satisfying snack, just as an example. Some examples of some healthier versions of snacks and treats that you might add to your list would be things like energy bites. If you've ever heard of those, they're usually made with dried fruit, nuts, seeds, a healthy oil, and some sort of sweetener, like it could be made with dates or honey or that type of thing, nut butters. But there's a recipe on my website that you can go check out to make something like that to have on hand. There's many recipes you can find online as well. Fruit is a great sweet snack, best to be eaten in between meals. Fruit we tend to break down very quickly in our digestive system, so it's not always the best thing to eat with our regular meals, but great for an in-between snack or 30 minutes before or after the meal that you are going to be eating. Dried fruit is a great sweet on-the-go snack as well. They have many versions that they don't have any added sugar to the dried fruit, so that's the type you want to look for. There's even chocolate that has natural sweeteners rather than sugar added. Typically, a health food store would carry something like this, but even some of the grocery stores are starting to get a lot of more variety in their chocolate, because chocolate can be very good for you. It's just all about what they're adding to it that tends to make it not the best for you. And then, of course, there's nuts and seeds. You can make your own homemade trail mix with the dried fruit and nuts and seeds. And then there's seaweed. It's nice and salty, has so many nutrients and vitamins and minerals in it. But for an extensive list, you can go onto the website, and it does have a snack list to give you more examples. But those are just some ideas that you can start adding to your list of new snacks and treats that you could be eating instead of the sugary ones that are your go-to. And I know that drinks are often a conversation with a lot of the sugar being added. And so that's a whole nother conversation as well. So for those that have had a relationship with soda or any sort of sweetened drinks, it could be some of the energy drinks. There's all sorts of things that we might want to be cutting out that have a lot of sugar in them. We all know that drinking water is really important for us. I'm not here to tell you that there needs to be a certain amount of water, but just that water is really important in our body for detoxing, for uh, keeping our water levels up. We're made up of a high percentage of water, and so it's just a really important thing. But often, water is not people's favorite thing. So if it was, that would be something they would go to easily. And so there's a few things you can do, like adding electrolytes to your water. Typically, electrolytes, if they're not a sweetened electrolyte, will be kind of a salty flavor because you're talking about sodium and phosphate and calcium and these minerals that make it an electrolyte because it's adding those minerals back to your body. Um, and then there's some that are just sweetened with stevia, and that's okay as long as you like the taste of stevia and or can handle it, like it doesn't bother your stomach. That's not the same thing as sugar, but it is a form of a sweetener. There are electrolytes, by all sorts of different companies, but it's just an important thing to add back into our body because we expend electrolytes through sweating um, and just living. It is an easy way to replenish those. So a few brands that I know offhand that have some good electrolytes is the Redmond Real Salt, their Relight, which is their electrolyte brand, has like an unflavored one that is definitely very salty, but it's a nice salty flavor. Or they have some flavored ones. And then Emergency, so that's the brand Emergency, makes those little packets that you can add to water. And for a long time, they carried one that was not sweetened. I do believe it had stevia as the last ingredient on the label, but I had drank these a lot to where they were more on the salty side as well. And so I liked it because I knew it felt like there wasn't any sugar in it because it didn't taste sweet, but it was really giving me that boost of electrolytes. I'm not sure if they're still carrying those exact kind. I know that they were going through some changes in packaging and stuff like that when I went to look for more. But the point is that there's different companies that carry it, but you can also make it yourself too, because you could do something simple like a pinch of salt and a squeeze of lime, and there's ways to make like your own electrolyte type water. And there's also pH balanced water, and it's pH balanced because they are adding some electrolytes in there, which is the minerals, and so it balances the water more. So if you find that water doesn't really work for you, some of these things might be something you can try that would make it so that water would be more satisfying. There's also drinking herbal tea, and often people, have either tried it and like it, or maybe they tried it and haven't liked it. But I offer this to you as a possibility of steeping some really basic herbal teas like chamomile or peppermint or something that you can sweeten on your own with honey, agave, stevia, anything like that, and you can even let it cool down, and it can be a cool drink later. It doesn't have to be hot tea, but you're getting the benefits of those herbs, and so that's a great way to have a really power packed drink in your day. There are also natural sodas that you could drink if you really enjoy that carbonation, that bubbliness of soda, that sweetness. There's a lot that are made even just from fruit juice. There's an Izzy brand. I'm sure there's a lot of other brands too. Izzy, they carry at Costco. So there's a lot of ways to get it really easily. It doesn't always have to be like a real specialty store either. They sell them in flats there, and it's just the fruit juice that's carbonated. There's also kombucha. If there's someone that really enjoys that carbonation, it is naturally fermented from fruit juice. It does have tea in it as well that it's being fermented. There's some that they have that doesn't even have added sugar to the kombucha. So again, if this is something that you've tasted and you enjoy, then that's a way to go as well. Obviously, you don't want to be drinking any one of these things all day long either. A variety, and making sure that we're having water in our diet is really important. Adding just lemon and lime to your water, drinking a glass of room temperature water in the morning with a squeeze of lime or lemon, or just the water itself, is a great way to really support your digestive system. We'll go into that more when in the future when we talk about gut health and some other other things. And then I was thinking about other types of drinks. There's those that maybe like coffee and they usually sweeten it. There might be some dark roast herbal teas that you can do instead of coffee that then you can sweeten differently. Or if someone really likes shakes or things like that, that are their type of, real sweet drink, you can do smoothies that's just with fruit, but not with anything added that is like ice cream or something that's sweetened in it. And you can even make those at home where you just blend up fruit in your blender and you can thin it out with your own milk. It can be a plant-based milk or a regular milk. It can be a water or a juice, but there's ways that you can still have the taste that you like, but provide it in a different way. Okay, the last step is step number 9, and it's how to manage your detox symptoms. And I wish I didn't have to mention this one just because it's one of those things where not everyone's going to necessarily experience it. But in the case that you do, wanted people to be aware of it. Because often people will feel certain detox symptoms like being lethargic or having headaches, achiness, tongue coatings, and a brain fog. And the best things you can do to make sure is to get enough sleep each night, drink enough water like we were just talking about, and to move your body each day. And that doesn't mean like a strenuous exercise program, but just small, varied movements. And this helps your circulation. And make sure that you are not sitting or laying down during the day too long at a time to keep that circulation really healthy. Moving around often throughout the day for a few minutes helps the lymphatic system, which is how our body cleans up our waste. And I talked earlier about how drinking water was helping us detox, and that's a natural process that we go through. And especially as we're sleeping, the water that we have taken into our body is binding with the toxins, and then in the morning when we go to the bathroom, we are eliminating those toxins that the body's been working hard on. And so all these things are just really important for supporting the body in its natural functions. But understanding that there could be some detox symptoms. So rather than giving up when you start, getting a headache or feeling like you're achy or tired, thinking that being off of sugar is not working. Instead, you need to understand that that means it is working, because the toxins of the sugar that are in your body that have been stored there, they're being stored in your fat and your tissues and in your organs as they are detoxing and leaving your body because you're not eating more of it. You're going to feel the effects of it temporarily until it gets out of your system. So this is just an important step to understand so that you don't get down and want to give up. Well, thank you so much for joining me today to learn more about the truth about sugar. And I really hope that you'll give yourself 7 days to learn this process and to practice, and then keep up the good work for 30 days. And after that, it will become a habit, a new lifestyle. And I really hope for each and every one of you that wants to take this on, that you're able to enjoy the benefits of what this can do for you, the changes that you will feel, and the new you. So to be your healthiest self, join me each week as we talk about a new topic that can help you, your family, and your loved ones in your life to be your healthiest self.